Have you ever paused to wonder how certain places managed to capture the essence of entire eras, shaping not just their own lands, but the fate of vast regions and generations to come? Some cities seem to stand at the crossroads of destiny, turning local movements into global currents that redefine culture, politics, and beliefs. Over centuries, these select urban centers become synonymous with wisdom, power, devotion, or innovation. By walking their streets, real or imagined, we can witness how a mix of geography, ambition, faith, and sheer resilience can elevate a single settlement to world-altering significance. In our exploration, we'll visit 5 such cities: Athens, Rome, Jerusalem, Baghdad, and Beijing. Each rose to prominence under unique circumstances, yet all left an enduring imprint on the human story. They nurtured revolutionary ideas, built monumental structures, harbored spiritual revelations, and sometimes endured catastrophic upheavals that tested their ability to endure and rebuild. Despite their differences in geography and time, these cities share traits that propelled them to greatness. Some commanded key trade routes, connecting disparate peoples and cultures. Others served as seats of empires or caliphates, radiating laws, religions, and innovations across continents. A few became centers of scholarship, preserving knowledge that might otherwise have been lost to the fires of war or the indifference of passing centuries. Often, they straddled lines between worlds, between the East and the West, between the ancient and the modern, and throughout their histories, each of them bore witness to the struggles and hopes of everyday citizens, from merchants and artisans to philosophers and conquerors. Why focus on cities rather than on entire empires or civilizations? Because the city is a crucible in which countless lives intersect, forging cultural identities as well as forging steel. A city's aura, shaped by architecture, debate, festivals, and faith, resonates far beyond its walls. People migrate, goods flow, and ideas spark. But it is in vibrant urban hubs that such convergence truly takes hold, transforming isolated sparks into far-reaching flames. Each of the 5 cities we'll examine exemplifies this dynamic. Though we'll glimpse temples and theatres, cathedrals and mosques, colosseums and imperial palaces, we will also see how intangible forces like philosophical inquiry, religious devotion, or the thirst for discovery form invisible pillars that uphold a city's grandeur. By the time we reach our conclusion, these 5 metropolises should feel less like remote historical footnotes and more like ever-relevant lessons. Their stories offer caution about the fragility of human achievement, reveal how swiftly fortune can shift, and show that the embers of creativity and resilience can endure even in times of devastation. So let's step into ancient squares and bustling markets, into sanctuaries and centers of learning, and allow these legendary places to spark our own curiosity. For as we peel back the layers of Athens, Rome, Jerusalem, Baghdad, and Beijing, we'll uncover not just the contours of their past, but also reflections of our present and glimmers of our future. Number 1. Athens. Athens might first conjure images of grand marble columns gleaming under a bright Mediterranean sun, or the silhouette of the Acropolis rising above modern city blocks. Yet the true legacy of Athens extends far beyond its iconic skyline. This ancient polis in Attica was once a battleground of ideas that dramatically reshaped governance and intellectual discourse. Though its earliest settlements date back to the late Bronze Age, Athens rose to indelible fame during the 5th century BCE, when it pioneered the concept of a citizen-driven democracy, albeit one that excluded women, enslaved people, and foreigners. At a time when monarchies and aristocracies ruled elsewhere, Athens offered an audacious experiment: the notion that free male citizens could gather, debate, and vote on the matters affecting their community. This radical system laid the groundwork for political models that still echo through modern parliaments and assemblies. Yet democracy is only part of Athens's heritage. The city also birthed or nurtured philosophers, whose names still crown the pantheon of Western thought. Socrates, with his relentless questioning, challenged complacency and forced his fellow citizens to scrutinize their beliefs. His disciple, Plato, went on to found the Academy, charting realms of philosophy that included ethics, metaphysics, and politics. Aristotle, Plato's own pupil, investigated everything from zoology to rhetoric, profoundly shaping how subsequent generations approached knowledge. Alongside these intellectual movements, flourished an artistic and literary scene that introduced dramatic storytelling to the world. The tragic and comic plays performed in Athens' theatres, masterminded by writers like Aeschylus, Sophocles, Euripides, and Aristophanes, echo universal themes of love, duty, hubris, and the fragility of fate. To understand how Athens attained such cultural dynamism, we must also remember that the city benefited from sea trade, forging alliances across the Aegean and beyond. The Delian League, initially a defensive pact against Persian aggression, became an empire in its own right, funneling wealth into Athens and fueling large-scale building projects, including the Parthenon. A statesman named Pericles championed the arts, invigorated democratic institutions, and turned the city into a magnet for talent. Yet Athens would taste the bitterness of war as well, notably during the Peloponnesian War with Sparta, which culminated in a decline of power and influence. Even so, the ideas unleashed in Athens proved unstoppable. Over centuries, they were adapted, criticized, revived, or reshaped, but seldom forgotten. Modern visitors can still sense the city's ancient pulse. Walking through the ruins of the Agora or standing on the Pnyx, one feels a lingering energy of debate and civic engagement. The intangible legacy of Athens, democracy, philosophy, art, theatre, continues to shine as brightly as the sun-bleached columns on the Acropolis, reminding us that small communities, guided by bold experimentation, can indeed leave an immeasurable mark on civilization. Number 2. Rome. Rome's story often begins with myth, as Romulus and Remus, a pair of twin demigods, founded the city in 753 BCE after a miraculous upbringing by a she-wolf. Yet behind such legend lies a formidable historical reality. This once humble settlement on the Tiber River grew into the heart of an empire that would dominate an entire sea and stretch from Britain to the Middle East. Rome's evolution from monarchy to republic and then empire was marked by remarkable feats of administration, lawmaking, engineering, and cultural synthesis. The Roman Republic, established around 509 BCE, relied on a complex balance of powers among consuls, the Senate, and assemblies. Though it was far from an egalitarian democracy, women, slaves, and non-citizens were excluded. Its ideas about civic duty, a written constitution, and rule of law laid down pillars that survive in many political systems today. The Romans' flair for infrastructure and organization is legendary. They built extensive roads, sometimes called the Internet of Antiquity, that bound together far-flung provinces, enabling trade, cultural exchange, and military coordination. Their ingenious aqueducts brought fresh water to urban centers, sustaining bathhouses, fountains, and latrines that elevated standards of hygiene and public life. Along with these practical triumphs, Roman architecture reached astonishing heights. The Pantheon's massive dome still stands as a testament to advanced concrete construction, while the Colosseum, once a venue for gladiatorial spectacles, endures as an iconic symbol of Roman culture, both grand and brutal. Moreover, the Roman legal tradition has exerted a colossal impact across centuries. The 12 Tables introduced the concept of publicly accessible laws, and jurisprudence evolved to incorporate principles such as innocent until proven guilty. Latin, Rome's language, sparked the development of the Romance languages and contributed significantly to English vocabulary. Roman religion initially mirrored Greek deities under new names, but gradually assimilated cults from throughout the empire, fostering an environment of religious plurality until Christianity, once persecuted, became the state religion in the 4th century CE, reshaping Rome's spiritual identity forever. While the fall of the Western Roman Empire in 476 CE is often cited as a watershed moment, this was no abrupt collapse, but rather a transformation. The eastern half, known as the Byzantine Empire, endured for almost another millennium. In the West, many Roman institutions and cultural elements persisted, transmitted through the church and the feudal structures that emerged. Rome itself later became synonymous with the papacy and a grand stage for Renaissance artists such as Michelangelo and Raphael. In modern times, Rome remains a palimpsest, where ancient ruins cohabitate with medieval churches, Baroque fountains, and modern neighborhoods. Its enduring layers reflect a city that has reinvented itself repeatedly without ever fully discarding its legacy. In that sense, Rome offers a living reminder of how law, urban design, cultural integration, and political power can radiate from a single center to shape entire civilizations, long after the original rulers have vanished. Number 3. Jerusalem. Jerusalem stands apart in our lineup of influential cities by virtue of its central role in the spiritual identity of billions. Revered by Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike, it is often called the City of Peace, though its history is one of the repeated conquest, exile, and conflict. Archaeological finds suggest human activity in the region over 5,000 years ago, but Jerusalem's prominence in the Hebrew Bible is what situates it at the heart of Jewish tradition. Around 1000 BCE, King David established Jerusalem as his capital, and his son, Solomon, built the first temple, solidifying the city's sacred status. The destruction of that temple by the Babylonians in 586 BCE and the exile of many Jews etched deep trauma into Jewish consciousness. When exiles returned and constructed the Second Temple, Jerusalem reaffirmed itself as a focal point of worship and pilgrimage. Christianity's connection to Jerusalem is equally profound. According to the New Testament, Jesus taught and was ultimately crucified here, and Christians believe he rose from the dead in the vicinity of what is now the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. From the earliest centuries of the Christian faith, pilgrims made arduous journeys to the Holy City, seeing it as the earthly gateway to divine revelation. The city then changed hands multiple times, coming under Roman rule, later Byzantine influence, and eventually Islamic governance, when Muslim armies captured Jerusalem in the 7th century. For Muslims, Jerusalem, Al-Quds, is revered as the site of the Prophet Muhammad's night journey and ascension to heaven. The Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, perched on the Temple Mount, Haram al-Sharif, embody Islam's profound reverence for the city. Because of this intense devotion across faiths, Jerusalem became a battleground for centuries. The Crusaders seized the city in 1099, establishing a Latin kingdom, only to lose it to Saladin in 1187. Various empires controlled Jerusalem afterward, including the Ottomans for several centuries. In modern times, tensions between Israelis and Palestinians have kept Jerusalem at the core of a prolonged conflict. Despite countless attempts at peace, the question of sovereignty over Jerusalem remains among the most fraught issues in international diplomacy. Yet amid these conflicts, Jerusalem endures as a living tapestry of faith, culture, and resilience. Its old city, with quarters named for the Muslim, Jewish, Christian, and Armenian communities, shows how devout traditions can exist side by side, even if uneasily. Millions of pilgrims each year traverse the narrow alleys, placing prayer notes in the Western Wall, venerating the Holy Sepulchre, or praying in the courtyards of Al-Aqsa. Jerusalem's aura reflects humanity's longing for spiritual closeness and its capacity for strife. Ultimately, the city is a testament to how belief systems can converge in a single place, fueling both magnificent devotion and turbulent conflict, thereby influencing geopolitical and religious narratives across the centuries. Number 4. Baghdad. Baghdad's name might evoke modern images of conflict, yet for centuries it stood as a beacon of knowledge, prosperity, and cultural effervescence. Founded in 762 CE by the Abbasid Caliph al-Mansur, Baghdad was deliberately crafted as a grand capital for an empire that stretched across the Middle East, North Africa, and parts of Asia. Its circular design, featuring the Caliph's palace and the main mosque at its heart, reflected Persian urban planning influences and the Abbasids' ambition to eclipse the Umayyad legacy rooted in Damascus. Over time, Baghdad's strategic location on the Tigris River turned it into a magnet for traders, merchants, and scholars from Europe, Africa, and the Far East. Central to Baghdad's golden age was its commitment to scholarship. The Abbasid rulers, particularly under Harun al-Rashid and his successors, funded extensive translation efforts. Greek, Persian, and Indian texts were rendered into Arabic, ensuring that ideas spanning philosophy, astronomy, mathematics, and medicine were preserved and expanded upon. This intellectual enterprise centered around the Bayt al-Hikmah, House of Wisdom, where luminaries like al-Khwarizmi pioneered algebra and Arab astronomers refined star charts. Physicians like al-Razi and later Ibn Sina, Avicenna, authored medical treatises that became standard references in both the Islamic world and medieval Europe. Poetry and literature thrived as well, with elegant verses and whimsical tales, such as those contained in the 1001 Nights, weaving Baghdad into a tapestry of romance and intrigue in the global imagination. Beyond intellectual pursuits, Baghdad was a bustling commercial hub. Its markets teemed with goods ranging from spices and silks to precious metals and exotic animals. Craftsmen produced exquisite textiles, glassware, and ceramics, while caravans traveling along the Silk Road helped disseminate these wares far and wide. The city's cosmopolitan makeup included Arabs, Persians, Turks, Jews, Christians, and many others, fostering a spirit of curiosity and cross-pollination that spurred innovation. At its zenith between the 8th and 10th centuries, Baghdad was arguably the largest and most advanced city in the world, outshining even Constantinople. However, Baghdad's fortune took a drastic turn in 1258, when the Mongols under Hulagu Khan besieged the city. The ensuing massacre ended the Abbasid Caliphate and destroyed countless priceless manuscripts. Though later dynasties, Ilkhanids, Ottomans, and others, would eventually control the area, the city never fully reclaimed its former status as the unrivaled center of Islamic learning. Yet Baghdad's legacy remains deeply woven into the foundations of modern science, medicine, mathematics, and literature. Long before globalization became a buzzword, Baghdad stood as a testament to how open-minded scholarship and multicultural synergy can spark breakthroughs that echo across the world. Even amid modern challenges, the city's past stands as a powerful reminder that societies thrive when they invite diverse voices to contribute to a shared intellectual and cultural fabric. Number 5. Beijing. Beijing's evolution from a frontier outpost to the capital of a modern superpower captures the sweeping saga of Chinese history itself. Though human settlements existed in the region for millennia, nearby sites like Zhoukoudian yielded the remains of Peking Man. The city truly rose to prominence in the 13th century, when Kublai Khan, a Mongol ruler, established it as his imperial seat under the name Dadu during the Yuan dynasty. This signaled a shift in China's political epicenter from the south to the north. When the Ming dynasty replaced the Yuan in 1368, the Yongle Emperor fortified Beijing's status by building the majestic Forbidden City, completed in 1420. This palatial complex, spanning acres of courtyards and halls, housed emperors, concubines, and eunuchs, symbolizing a celestial order that placed the monarch at the pivot between heaven and earth. For centuries, Beijing served not only as an imperial capital, but also as a stage for dramatic power transitions. The Manchus took control in 1644, founding the Qing dynasty and melding Manchu traditions with Confucian governance. Under successive Qing emperors, Beijing remained a locus of cultural fusion. The city's gates and walls reinforced its defensive posture, while Confucian statecraft governed every level of administration. China's Middle Kingdom worldview came under increasing strain in the 19th century, however, as Western powers and internal rebellions challenged Qing authority. Incidents like the destruction of the old Summer Palace in the Second Opium War and the Boxer Rebellion revealed how the old empire struggled against foreign intervention and internal dissent. Beijing's upheavals continued into the 20th century. After the fall of the Qing dynasty in 1912, warlord factions, Japanese occupation, and a bitter civil war reshaped China's political landscape. The communist victory in 1949 saw Mao Zedong proclaim the People's Republic of China from atop Tiananmen Gate, solidifying Beijing's central role in a new socialist state. Sweeping changes, like the Cultural Revolution, led to the destruction of many historic relics, but also forged the city's identity as a hub of revolutionary zeal. Post-Mao economic reforms sparked another dramatic transformation. Today, Beijing's urban sprawl and modern high-rises exist alongside heritage sites like the Temple of Heaven or the Hutongs, narrow alleys that recall an older way of life. Culturally, Beijing has been an incubator for Chinese arts and scholarship for centuries. Peking opera, with its distinctive costumes and vocal techniques, remains a celebrated tradition, while modern art districts signal China's contemporary creative boom. As the capital of the world's most populous country, Beijing now wields vast political and economic influence. Its transformation from a walled imperial seat to a global metropolis encapsulates China's larger trajectory, holding fast to cultural roots while undergoing breathtaking modernization. Observers find in Beijing a window onto the challenges of rapid development, the power of a centralized state, and the enduring resonance of an imperial past that continues to shape China's role on the global stage. Now that we've surveyed 5 extraordinary cities, certain thematic through lines emerge, revealing how these urban centers shaped and were shaped by larger human trajectories. First among them is the power of location. Each city commanded a strategic spot. Athens in the maritime crossroads of the Aegean, Rome at the nexus of the Italian peninsula, Jerusalem perched amid ancient trade routes, Baghdad along the vital Tigris River, and Beijing on the frontier bridging pastoral north and agrarian south. Geography often sets the stage for commerce, migration, and cultural exchange, laying the groundwork for cities to accumulate wealth and influence. Another key theme is political innovation. Athens experimented with radical democracy, inviting citizens to shape governance through direct debate. Rome refined legal frameworks that persist in modern judicial systems.